Hi everyone, I'm Shauna and welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm bringing you a bit of a, I don't want to say classic quite yet, but a video that's becoming a bit of a classic on this channel. And I'm going to be talking about 10 things I'm not going to buy in 2022. I'm going to link my previous one. I thought that I did it in 2020, but I actually filmed it in very early 2021. So I'm going to leave that in the cards for your perusal. My framing for the video this year is just a little bit different than in the past. Yes, I'm still going to be talking about things I'm not going to buy, but how I'm viewing things I'm not going to buy is just a little bit different. And that is because when I was thinking about these things in the past couple of years, I was thinking about things I already didn't buy and wanted to keep that kind of as it was, which it's really easy to not buy things you already don't buy. And one of the biggest differences is that the video this year is really going to be about setting goals for myself and pushing myself a little bit. So when I'm thinking to myself about not buying things or I come across one of these things, there's intentionality behind why I shouldn't or don't want to buy these things. And so I can push myself a little bit to set a goal and say that my goal this year is to not buy this thing. And so some of these things are in here for contentment reasons, where if I don't buy some of these things, the goal is to be content with what I have, or hopefully it'll help me use what I have to be content with what I have. Before we get into it, I would love if you would subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, kind of minimalist, no buy, simple living, beauty content, no buy content. We do a lot on this channel. I would love to have you here and I would love for you to subscribe. Also, there are super things that are enabled on this channel. So if you really like the content that I create and you want to support it, I just want to point that out for you. I appreciate all the support that y'all can give me. So let's get into it. Number one is plants. I don't think this has ever been on a list before, but it's quite simply that I just have too many. Now, when I moved here, I only came with a couple of plants, I think 3. One you can see behind me that's been behind videos since I got it, I think in sometime in 2020. But before my brother moved across the country, he dropped off all of his plants. It's so many. And my window above my kitchen is just packed with plants. I love a plant. I think they bring, I just love seeing all my plants in the window. I'm looking at them right now. I love that. And they're doing pretty well. I also was gifted one by my partner's family when I moved in. So I have so many and I'm kind of struggling to take care of some of them, honestly, especially since being sick for so long. I'm just kind of drowning in plants, and despite loving plants, there are certainly places around my apartment where I could use a plant or two, but we don't really get a lot of light and I'm moving anyways. So the setup here is just not going to be the setup I'm going to have going forward. So we're going to say no to plants, even though I love them. Number 2 are journals. This one really came to mind just about 2 weeks ago when I came across this idea of a vision journal, which I really love. I love a good journaling project. And I immediately went online to find a journal that I could buy. I put it on my wish list, which I love as a holding place. And I just thought, you know what, let me see if I have any that are lying around. Turns out I had 6. I was this close to buying another journal, but I have 6. And quite frankly, there's about 3 of them where I just hate the spacing of the lines. I feel like journal people have very specific feelings about how their spacing of their lines should be. Anyways, I don't really like 3 of them. They're just too big and the margin on another one is just huge. So I was like, okay, if I get rid of, let's say I decluttered these 3, I have one that was a gift from a job I did for Toronto District School Board. Not a job. I spoke at something for them. So I'm going to keep that. But so that's 4. I still have 2 more. One was too small and one kind of felt too big. And I was really in there kind of justifying my way to buying something new, especially because I didn't want a lined journal. I wanted a blank journal, basically white paper. And so I came this close again to justifying myself of getting this new journal because all the ones I have were with lines, none were the right size. And so journals are on this list not simply because I just have too many and I need to get through them. I think there's a lot of projects that you could use journals for, that you could use different sizes for. But because I didn't have the most optimal thing, I wanted to buy something new. And this is just a reminder to myself that because you don't have the most perfect thing doesn't mean you need to go out and buy the most perfect thing. So I'm sure journaling projects will come out in the future this year, and I probably will be tempted to buy one. And I don't need the most perfect thing for that project. If something is close, 60 or 70% of the way there, then I think should use what we got, or I should use what I have. Okay, I have a few makeup related ones, and I think they might surprise you. Well, the first one in specific. And the first one is blush. I love blush. It's probably my favorite makeup category. And this one, all the makeup ones are goals. Like these ones are really stretching me. And ones that I think I'm going to have to come back to remind myself of like why I'm trying to not buy these things this year. With the makeup minimalist experiment that I'm currently in progress of doing, it isn't perfect. Like I don't 100% love everything that I chose, but it did show me that I can genuinely live with less makeup and be happy. And when it comes to blush in specific, this is a category that I love so much, and that there are truly so many blushes out there that would be perfect for me, that I would love, that would be the exact color that I want, the exact finish that I want, the exact look that I want. They would genuinely be perfect. And when you love something like this particular category, it doesn't have to be blush. It could be any makeup category, any product. There's always going to be more than one thing that I would love and that would genuinely be perfect and will make me happy and will make, like, I will love the experience of using it. But that's not the point though. Just because there are perfect things out there doesn't mean I get to own them or that I should own them. Because with blush, with all these perfect things out there, if I own or if I buy even one more or 5 more, then what about all the other perfect blushes that I have in my collection behind me? What about those? I bought those because they were perfect or because they were great or that I loved them, and I still own them because I still love them. And so if I'm always open to the possibility of buying new things because they're perfect, can neglect all the other things I bought that are also perfect. And even if you think something is going to be perfect, doesn't mean that it will be. I genuinely have years worth of blush behind me, years that I love, and I really want to spend my time using them and using what I already have, which I think is the epitome of contentment. Like, my stuff is good enough. Not even good enough. We're not even talking about settling here. My stuff is great. My stuff is some of the perfect stuff out there. That's perfect for me. Let me use it. This one in particular is a mindset shift. My stuff is perfect. My stuff is perfect for me. Let me use it and let me appreciate it. Or I can continuously be open to buying new perfect things, and then it just becomes this framework of buying new things because they're perfect and allowing myself to buy anything that's perfect. Next is eyeshadow. And I really don't want to buy eyeshadow this year. This is going to be a goal as well, because I think along with blush, with eyeshadows, there is always something in a year that will like get me, where I'll be like, wow, that's so beautiful. And I think I've become really good when it comes to eyeshadow distinguishing between color stories that I love as a color story, as a group of colors together, versus a color story that I would like to apply to my eyeshadow. Because there's some colors I just think look great together on paper, but for one reason or another wouldn't wear some of those on my face. In addition, over the course of this past year, I've come to realize just how specific my taste in eyeshadow is. I only like a very few kind of select things, and I do own kind of duplicates of some of my favorites because I like what I like, kind of thing. Like I like very few colors and textures, and I would say it's fairly limited. And I already have versions of all of the things that are my favorites in terms of like colors and textures. And so like a little variety, but not a ton. And I'm also not somebody who finds joy in owning the same thing in different formulas. Like if I owned a pink shimmery eyeshadow quad from Charlotte Tilbury, I wouldn't also use a pink shimmery eyeshadow quad from Natasha Denona and be happy with both and use both equally because they're different formulas. Some people are really about that, where they can really appreciate eyeshadow formulas and will own or can own things in different formulas that work for them. Not me. It's not me. I genuinely feel like I have everything I need. And when looking at my eyeshadow this year, when I look at every single pan of eyeshadow I have, whether it's a single shadow or in my self-made palette or a pre-made palette, whatever it is, I only have pan on 2 shadows, and those are the 2 shimmers in the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. This to me says I'm not really using my eyeshadow. I'm not using in terms of quantity or like depth, like across all the palettes. So with these things in mind, already feeling like I own all of the colors that I would like, and not having pan in all these palettes, I want to use what I have here too. And that was just kind of extra reason for why I'm really interested in using what I have this year. That was one of the catalysts for like, hey, I would really like to use all of my palettes. And I would like for pan to be in multiple palettes. I really want to spend the year focusing and using what I have. And the Makeup Minimalist Challenge suggests to me that that will be way easier or more possible than I might have previously thought. Next up is nail polish. My nail polish journey has actually come a long way. Back in 2020, I had something like 60 nail polishes. I had so many. I was just overflowing in nail polish, and I felt like at that point I needed to own one of like every color. And I owned blues, but I don't like wearing blue on my fingers. It's not something that I enjoy. So why do I have to have a blue? So I owned something like 50 nail polishes, and now I own something like 20. So we're kind of like half of that. I don't actually know how many that I own. It could even be less, but it's something around that number. Like we're at least half. I love painting my nails. And I feel like I've done a really great job curating my nail polish collection, where I feel like I have everything I could want, everything I want, without actually owning literally everything. And I love what I have. I really, really do. And I also bought quite a few nail polishes this year, especially from London town. And so just like in the previous 2, this is the perfect time to use what I have. There's a couple of shades that I think I'm kind of getting pretty close to. I actually panned one at the very end of 2021, and that's just kind of the goal I have for my nail polish collection. I've done a great job curating it. There's nothing else I need to buy. And now it's just time to use what I have and love it and just have that be the norm. I don't always have to be looking for the newest thing or a color that I like, because there will always be another color that I like. And with nail polish in specific, it's a fairly inexpensive product. You could buy some from the drugstore between like $5 and $15, depending on the polish. So it could just be really easy to throw one into your cart, and I just don't want that to happen. Whenever my next nail polish purchase is, I hope it's not this year, I want it to be intentional and not just buying a new thing because it's inexpensive and I'm there. Next up is a TV and streaming services. I don't presently own a TV, and I also do not subscribe to any streaming services, like not Netflix or Disney Plus or anything like that. And that was actually a choice I made when I moved in. I did have Netflix for maybe a month or 2 when I moved in here. And my partner even offered to add me to his family plan, or the plan he has with his family. I think it's just a couple of extra dollars a month, something like $2 to $5. I don't know how much it was. I can afford $5 a month for a streaming service. So this one is not really about the price here. And over the past few months, what I've come to realize is that I have loved not having these things because it has made me so much more intentional about the media that I consume. I would just go onto Netflix and just turn something on, and then it would just play and play and play, and I would mindlessly watch stuff. And I would just put on anything, like literally anything. Now I have to know what I want before I watch it. So I'm just way more intentional about when I watch TV of any kind, like even on YouTube. if you want to watch YouTube, you have to like know what you want to watch. So I really like that extra layer of intentionality. And I also just kind of like picking what I want to watch and just watching whatever it is. And so I am not sucked into anything that's new because it's new. I had no idea what Squid Game was, and my partner told me. He was the one who brought it up to me and had to explain to me what it was because he knew that I didn't have Netflix and I hadn't seen it. And so sometimes I've watched shows because they were like Tiger King. And I don't need to watch a show because it's new. I just want to watch whatever I want to watch. And a good example of that is Everybody Loves Raymond. I watched that with my partner. Well, we were watching it, but separately. That was just so good. Like, that was just exactly what I wanted to watch. Ticked all the boxes. Was it new? I have no idea if it was on a streaming platform or not. Perfect. And I just like that. Find what I want to watch it. I don't need a TV. And if I want to watch something specific, I can always go to my partner's house because they're a very big sports family. And like, I watched all of not Euro. Was it Euro? I think it was Euro. I watched all of Euro at my partner's house. Tell me who won. Who won? Do you have to Google it? I'll wait. The correct answer is Italy. Forza Azzurri. Number 7 are candles. This was on the list. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but to me, candles are something where you could buy a couple and then not buy them for 1 or 2 years, and then be on a year where you can buy. Like, I think it's okay to cycle on and off with some of these things. Candles are one of those things for me. I bought a couple at the very beginning of the year. I think it was 2. I now have too many, and I haven't used them at the rate that I thought that I would. And so now they're just like taking up too much space. And I have things that I'm not using, and they're taking up space and they're not being used. So once I have gone through at least 3, I would say at least 3, then I can buy some. Preferably, I think like having 1 or 2 is fine. But like if I finish 3 and I haven't started 1 or 2, like or the last 2 left, then, hold off. But having 1 or 2 on the go is perfectly fine for me. Anything more than that is excess, and I'm in excess right now. Next up are cleaning supplies. This is because I have an unmet goal here. Before I moved into this place, I had this goal of, maybe not before I came, but certainly while I was here, I had this goal of just like learning how to clean things. Not as in like, how do you mop a floor, but like, what is the best way to clean stuff? What's the best way to clean a sink or a countertop or for specific kinds of stains? Yes, I have cleaned things in the past, but I have never been responsible for cleaning a whole entire house. And also, I think there's something very, there's a lot you can do with like baking soda and vinegar. And I just want to be informed about that. Yeah, what's the optimal way of cleaning my surfaces? I do have I have a couple of cleaners. I don't have very many, but before I buy anything new, like I can use what I have. But before I buy anything new, I just want to know like, what are all the uses for baking soda and vinegar, and have I tried them? If I have and they don't work, then I can get the newest thing. If they do, then I can just use those things, because baking soda and vinegar are so cheap and you can have them for so long. And if they do the trick for 90% of the things, why would I not want that? Okay, next up are mugs and jars. I love a good mug. I don't know why. I almost said I love a great mug. I love a mug. And I think I have a lot for like one person. There's only been one time since living here that somebody else other than me used a mug. When my partner comes over, he doesn't use mugs. He'll just use cups. Wait, has he? No, he's never used a mug. He also drinks iced coffee, so he doesn't like it in a mug. He put it in a glass. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. It's typically just me. And I would say I use every single mug that I own. I have used each and every one this year. And I'll cycle through them. Like, I do have my seasonal mugs, but there's some that I just really love for tea. And there's some that like I'll change up for coffee. I love mugs, but I can just have such a hard time saying no, because I just love them and they're so aesthetic and they just feel like they're so functional. And I have room where I could put another 1 or 2, but just because you have the space doesn't mean you need to fill it up. And so my point here is that if I have any more than I have right now, we're going to get into excess. Like, I already feel like I have, like, I could say if I halved the mugs I have now to, let's say, only have 4, I still wouldn't do that. I think I would have to have my 2 seasonal mugs, my 1 clear David's tea mug for like blue sleeve tea, and then my 2 pattern mugs. So that's 5. I think the absolute minimum would be 5. And I would be fine. I have another, let's say, I think 4, like this one. 3, yeah, 4, another 4. And I use them all the time. So we're already kind of in that I have more than I need, but I use them all. If I have even more than that, then it's just going to be too many that are languishing. And it's going to be harder to use them all, and I don't want that. So this one I'm going to have to say no to. I do just want to mention that I did see one today, and I, like, without thinking, put it in my cart. But I said no, and I took it out once I realized, like, what I was doing. And that's the thing, too, with mugs. They're fairly inexpensive. It's almost $6. The other thing in this category are jars, and specifically, like, mason jars. Jars you get when you make jam, or you buy jam, or pasta sauce, salsa. I had so many, and I just wasn't using them. I still have a couple that once whatever is finished in there is finished, I'm going to get rid of them. Simply because I just kind of, there's one that I have beans in. I do not buy dried beans. So once the dried beans are gone, and I force myself to finish them, which has taken me 3 years, by the way, I'm just going to see if I can use it. If not, I'm going to recycle it. This is something that I really see in a lot of zero waste, kind of minimalist home tours. And this is something that minimalist, zero waste kind of people do. You know, repurposing what you already have, especially if you've already like bought a pasta sauce, then you use that container. But what was happening is that I was keeping them because I felt like this is what I had to do. And then I amassed like 8 and then never used them, but had them around because it's like, what if I need a container? Then what am I going to do then? Am I going to have to go out and buy one? They were truly taking up so much space. I finally just recycled them. I still have maybe 2 that are presently holding things that they shouldn't be holding. And once I use them up, one of them is going to be converted for baking soda. I'm going to try at least. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to do that because I want to put a spoon in there. Anyways, this is something to me that just didn't make sense. I was keeping stuff that I was told or felt like I should keep, but then I wasn't using. Next up are cookbooks. I do love a good cookbook, and I can get drawn into something that's really aesthetically pleasing. They also seem really practical because there's something about expanding your repertoire of cooking and introducing new meals into your life. There's a lot of folks out there who are going to say you could get anything you want off Pinterest. Listen, after a while, I start hating Pinterest recipes simply because it feels like it's always the same kinds of things. And if I want to make something else, it's like it's not available on Pinterest, even if I search the name. If you search up like quick meals for dinner or like quick weekday meals, anything like that, it's like the same style of things. And there's like a Pinterest food aesthetic. Anyways, I'm sometimes just over Pinterest and I find it unhelpful. But I do have alternative sources of inspiration. I have magazines and I have cookbooks. And so cookbooks do feel really special because you curate them yourself and, you know, they're just practical and then you can use them as decor as well. I used to use them much more before I moved. And since living here, I think I only used one cookbook. And I have not used them much at all in the past 10 months. So until I have a track record of using them, then I don't think it makes any sense to buy more books just to sit around and not get used. I do think, though, that cookbooks can be kept for years, decades even, in ways that I don't think you could keep, or that I keep regular books. Most books kind of have a shelf life, even if it's like 5 or 10 years. I'm no longer interested in that thing, or I've already read it a few times. There's very few books for me personally that will make it past 10 years. Whereas a lot of people with cookbooks will keep stuff for decades, and I can see myself doing that as well. So those are some of the ways I've justified owning cookbooks. I just don't need to, because I haven't proven to myself that I'm using them. The last thing I want to talk about are cheap accessories. I'm talking shoes, bags, jewelry, all of those kinds of things. And I haven't purchased cheap footwear in a long time, like maybe 3 years. I still do have a pair of flats from when I worked at a fast fashion company. I have them simply because they're like a black pointed toe flat and they're like the only ones that I own. I feel like they need to be replaced before I throw them out. Or not throw them out, but declutter them in some kind of capacity. If I decluttered them now, or my hesitation is that I wouldn't, like, there'd be a gap and then I would need them and look for them and they wouldn't be there anyways. I don't wear them. The reason why they're not getting worn is that they are uncomfortable. They're cheap, they don't fit great, and the like sole of the foot is kind of, it's not plasticky, but it's not moisture wicking like a lot of like higher quality flats are. They're just not great. The same thing can be said for cheap jewelry. I haven't bought cheap jewelry in a long time as well. I think since at least 2019. Wow, hold on. I said 3 years ago. 2018 was 4 years ago. But you get the point. These things, like shoes, tend to be uncomfortable. And then the jewelry can give me rashes and turn my ears green. That does happen all the time. And then the jewelry itself can like strip or peel or fade, tarnish because it's not high quality. And I've kind of been in this position with some of these things where I haven't worn them because they look cheap after a while. Even if like all I've done is sit in a drawer, they just look cheap. I'm not about that. I'm not about being uncomfortable, and I'm not about getting a rash. And I want my things to look high quality. And I think that this is a good way to maybe exit out of fast fashion. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I've struggled with this a lot. And this could just be a way in where it's like, let me try and set this goal of either buying nothing or something higher quality, or I think a better phrase would be the highest quality that I can afford. That would be, I think, what would be, that is what I think I would be best served by. I'm always disappointed with these kinds of things because they're low quality. And I've often just bought them just to be able to buy something, to have a new accessory, to feel like I have a new life in my wardrobe. I don't want to buy stuff just to buy stuff. And I also don't want to feel like I have to have a refresh in my wardrobe. I just think that's a dangerous game to play. Maybe dangerous is too strong of a word. It's just not something I want to get in the habit of. Like, you really are, like, you can't, to me, a refresh kind of means like I'm not content with what I have. I can't be content with what I have. So it needs to be consistently refreshed. So those are all the things that I'm not buying this year, or I'm setting a goal of not buying. It's 11 things. Let me know what you're not buying this year. I'm very curious to hear what's on your list and if we share anything in common. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.